Hello and good afternoon or good morning wherever you are. Welcome to this week's Focus on Geothermal Energy for the Weekend webinar. My name is Alexander Richter. I'm the editor of ThinkGeoEnergy. I'm very pleased to have with me today Carlos Jorquera. He is the editor of our Spanish-speaking platform, PiensaGeotermia, and the president of the Geothermal Council in Chile, and an international consultant that has been working widely on geothermal topics, both in Europe and in particular in South and Central America. So with that, Carlos, I'm giving the word over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Alex, and thanks for everyone who went into this seminar. I'm going to have a short overview on what's going on in South America and what are the main challenges for developing geothermal energy in competitive markets or deregulated markets where the technology has to compete against solar and wind. Let me start with some overview on how was the development of the geothermal sector in Latin America and the Caribbean. You see that there is a lot of activities in the 80s, more focus on development done by states, so not on competitive markets. And later on, I think that the first power plant that was built inside this type of competitive market was Cerro Pavilion of Chile in 2017, that came online at that time. But all the previous development was mainly done by governments and PPAs, were something that was captured by the state. Today we have a total installed capacity of almost 1.7 gigawatts in the region, from 15 gigawatts global installed capacity in geothermal energy. And we see that this is almost 10% of the global installed capacity in the world. The main country with geothermal energy in the region is Mexico. And there is a lot of development in Central America. And in South America, we have only today two units, two power plants online. One is from Chile with 81 megawatts online. It started with 48 in 2017, and this year came online additional 33 megawatts. And in Colombia, there was the first power plant that was designed around an existing old oil well, and that is with almost 0.1 megawatts. It's around 700 kilowatts, the size of this plant. And Bolivia is doing a lot today. They are in the construction of the 5 megawatt facilities in Laguna Colorada, and that power plant will be used for powering the construction of the 100 megawatt power plant that is planned in the country. You see that the main technology use is mainly single flash or double flash, and in the last developments, like in Chile and Colombia, we see the new power plants with technology of binary technologies. And here is another overview on amount of shares of each of type of technologies that are on each country. And yeah, Colombia and Chile, they have their first power plants in South America with binary units. Now I'm going to go more deeper into reasons why the development has been not so exciting in the region as expected, due to reasons like we have a huge potential of geothermal energy, more than 30 gigawatts in South America. And the main point here is that when we look deeper into deregulated markets where the technology only competes on the energy price against solar and against wind, then there is a gap with the existing prices of each technology. I will use the Chilean context as a reference for the analysis, since all what's regards to the regulation and what's happens in the past 6 years in the region is similar what is going on in Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia now, and Argentina maybe. But the same analysis applies for these countries. You know, in Colombia, Ecuador, they just have a new regulation. They liberalized the power generation market, and very similar to the Chilean market regulation. And in Peru, we have also similar regulation as in Chile. So I think that what is captured here in the Chilean market is also similar for the rest of the countries in South America that have potential for geothermal development. In Chile, we have a energy strategy that is driven by the matrix decarbonization until 2050. We have a clear energy policy stating that by 2050 we have to be carbon neutral. Similar statements we can find in the rest of the countries in South America. And also Chile was, I guess, one of the first, at least the first country in South America by having a green hydrogen strategy for exporting this green fuel to the world. And today, Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia and Argentina are also in that movement where they are setting up this strategy. And we see that renewables with hydrogen production is what's a big driver for the power sector. Also, we as country, we signed the Paris Agreement in 2015, and from there have been several other regulations in parallel to the green hydrogen strategy. For instance, we have an energy efficiency law that pushed the development of district heating system. We call it here not only district heating, district energy system for providing heating and cooling. And geothermal is also listed under that regulation as an alternative for the country. We are still in the early stages. That law was approved by the end of last year, and there is a lot of infrastructure to be developed in the country for getting to that point. If we look then in other countries, there is not a specific push on low enthalpy uses, at least in South America. We have seen a lot of this type of push in Central America with focus on agriculture products. So the idea there is to add value to the agriculture, and GIZ from Germany is doing a lot of efforts into that. We also see that as another driver that at least from Europe and international markets, they are requesting products with low or zero CO2 path in the products, and that is also something that is changing the structure of the mining sector in Chile, Peru, in Argentina, the lithium, and with mining I mean copper and lithium, two main elements that are required for the electric vehicle industry, for the construction of the cars and for the construction of the batteries. And there is also a force saying to the market that we need very quickly to reduce to zero the emissions around these two industries. And new thermal power plants, I think in Chile at least, are not possible today. And in Peru, Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia, they have a more open market for those type of technologies, since these countries have a lot of oil or gas that they are using for power production. And now what's happened in the meantime is that in this progress and transition to a renewable matrix, 100% renewable, Chile has put a lot of efforts of achieving this goal by 2030, and introduces several changes to the regulation, like the energy auctions that had a clear focus on renewables energy. And what was the outcome of that? That today we replace a lot of fuel production. We are taking away carbon fire stations, and we have a permanent drought that has deteriorated the hydraulic generation. So we see in the overall picture that there is a lot of variable energy coming online, almost 6 gigawatts from a size of 19 gigawatts installed capacity. So almost 1/3 of the installed capacity is with variable energy, renewable, and we are taking away carbon, and the hydraulic is deteriorated. So we are taking away a lot of flexibility from the system and inertia from the system. And that is totally new, the way the matrix is today. The system is not capable, or is at a limit of capable to manage the way the system is working, and we have used a lot of fuel, like power peaking generation units in the last 2 years, and emissions in the sector has increased, and that there is something strange that just having as key driver the PPA, or the US dollar per megawatt hour from each technology, and not considering this, what's happened when the soil goes down, is bringing a lot of stress to the system. And we think there that technologies like geothermal energies can contribute with flexible baseload renewable generation. And this scheme is what we are seeing now, what's going on in Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia. They have introduced also energy auction schemes in their countries, and all of the first and second call, the winners were solar or wind technologies. So very likely from now in 2 to 3 years, we will see that those countries will get to a similar state of what's going on in the power generation sector. And here we see what are the alternatives today for geothermal projects to develop and get a PPA. We have normally in the regulated markets, the first market is with the big industries, and those are bilateral negotiation with off-takers. In the case of Ecuador and Colombia, maybe you sell the energy to the national grid, through the national grid as the PPA, and not with the final clients, but they are moving to have this more open market to allow this competence and reduce the energy price. We see also in all of the countries here listed energy auctions, and 2 types of energy auctions. In Chile, it's driven by price, and in Argentina, in Peru, and Colombia, they have or they can also do energy auctions per technology. From the experience from Chile and trying to develop the geothermal sector, we think that if the energy auctions driven by price is not right setup, you will never see, or it's very unlikely to see a geothermal power plant getting a PPA in the auction. Different situation if you do a specific auction for geothermal energy. There are some cases like in Colombia and Ecuador where the state is mandated to sign PPAs for renewables energy. That's another type of market. In Chile and Peru, we also have the opportunity to sell to the spot market, but that's a risky market where you will not get a project finance, for instance, if you don't have a PPA. And in Chile, we have a type of feed-in tariff scheme that is called the stabilized spot market for renewables energy less than 9 megawatts. And Transmark is one of the companies in Chile that is trying to develop a project under this scheme. And you see below two pictures on that shows the way solar energy is reducing the cost. And in the last energy auction in Chile from last year, we got an offer for $18 per megawatt hour for a solar plant located in the desert of Chile. So and that is the gap from how do we compete in terms of price against solar energy. I mentioned there are two types of energy auctions, by technology or price driven, and the lessons learned from Chile, if we look in detail, these price driven auctions, we see that where are the improvement needed into those actions. One is to, in some way, to value the flexibility and inertia that is provided by geothermal energy. Solar energy and wind energy, they only provide synthetic inertia to the system that is not the same as having a rotating generator in the system. And the way then the amount of technology needed in the transmission system to keep the system without a shortage of electricity is something that is also costly. So these two parameters needs to be in an equilibrium, because after a certain amount of energy shares, like in Chile, it was studied at point that says that between 25% to 30% of variable energy is the maximum the system can manage correctly, and we are getting to that point. The value of production profile or plant factor, for instance, in Chile, why we see an offer for $18 per megawatt hour, because that solar plant does not take care what's happened after the sun goes down. So during the night, they don't have to pay nothing for not providing energy outside the solar hours. And this is also that is not recognized in our auctions terms of references, and the same with the plant factor. So the amount of hours that the power plant is available during the year. We think those type of things need to be addressed in the evaluation of the offers. Then we have the resource location in relation to demand, like in Chile. It's a very long country, I showing a previous slide. And this means that bringing the energy from the desert to the south requires a lot of transmission, new transmission. Today, all of the transmission that is available is full with renewables energy, coming from the desert to Santiago, where is the big demand. And we are building new transmission lines, a 3 gigawatt transmission line that will connect directly the north of Chile with Santiago. But that transmission line is also full. When it comes online, it's already full with projects that are expected to get online through these energy auctions. So we see that any additional megawatts installed in the desert require new transmission from the north to the south. And from a social point of view, it's getting more and more difficult to build these transmission lines. For instance, these 1,500 kilometer transmission lines that will connect Antofagasta with Santiago is expected to be developed in 10 years, if everything goes well. What provides this also energy auctions? Long-term PPAs, 20, 25 years or more, depending on the country, but this is the typical term for the PPA. They also provide minimum requirements like 4-6 years to get online. So after granting a PPA under the energy auctions, then you have, at least in Chile, 5 years to get online with your project. But there are some minimum requirements for the project to get into the auction. And the project size in relation to economies of scales, that's also a thing. So at least we see in the region that since the geothermal resources are located up in the mountains, we need to build transmission lines in distance between 60 to 100 kilometers, and this force projects to be big enough, like 80, 100 megawatt size. So smaller projects are very unlikely to be developed due to the distance from the grid to the national grid, from the location of the project to the national grid. And also going back to this resource location in relation to the demand, at least in Chile, 75% of the demand is located from Santiago to the south. So it also makes sense that in an energy auction, if you want to avoid risk from the development of projects or the availability of the energy and the risk on the transmission, you can also put a location parameter into that. And geothermal energy is located along from the north to south in all the Andes for all of the countries. And this is the last slide I have for the presentation. And also I want to bring here that geothermal energy is not only power production, it's also a source for the economic growth. And we are seeing this, for instance, in Mexico with GeoFood, with the effort I mentioned in Central America for adding value to agriculture products. And also we are starting to see what's going on in Europe and in North America with lithium extraction, some green lithium extraction. We have the triangle of lithium resources of the world here between Chile, Peru, Ecuador, Chile, Peru, Argentina, and Bolivia, and Cerro Pabellón that is located in that triangle. We see a lot of lithium content there, not higher as in the States, but the flow, the brine flow rate is much higher. And if you combine content of lithium with flow rate, you get to a very high value. At least the preliminary analysis done by the Geothermal Center of Excellence in Chile, they discovered that if they manage to extract 50% of the lithium content in Cerro Pabellón, that's equal to a PPA of around $90 per megawatt hour. So it's like having another power plant operate or a similar market to the power selling business case. And it's also good to keep in mind for the countries when they define strategies how to develop, for instance, energy auctions or how to push certain technologies to development. Is we see gender is a topic today in South America, and we are happy to see that at least in the geothermal industry, since most of this is international companies coming to Chile, to South America, the gender is not an issue. It's very equilibrated. At least in Chile, all of the geothermal companies that are today with geothermal concessions, the managers are women. We also see opportunities for having long-term new jobs in cascade business around a geothermal power plant. That's something that solar and wind cannot provide directly. And we need to highlight these points to the authorities. The plant factor and everything that is related with flexibility and provision of inertia is also something technically that has not to be that needs to be considered when decisions are made on, for instance, for the energy auctions. Emissions. So emissions, I think that one way to push the industry for having more conscious on emissions is to increase the CO2 price. In Chile, the CO2 price per ton is at $5 per ton. In Europe is around $65 per ton, with peaks in last year around 100. So we see there a gap. The social estimation of the CO2 cost in Chile is $35. So we see that shortly this price from 5 has to increase at least to 35, and this this will create additional demand for renewables and for baseload. Issues around water consumption, binary technologies are very good to avoid this type of discussions. And this is an important topic when we see developments in the deserts in Chile and Peru, in Argentina. Water in the desert is an issue. And land use, we have, you know that one of the less amount of hectares per megawatt is in the geothermal technology. So this is what I prepared for this opportunity. So the big picture is we need to compete in the regulated markets. It's not easy to get a PPA, and we need to make some bring to the table this type of discussions with the authorities so they can recognize from a technological point of view, geothermal can bring to the grid, and also what are these upsides I mentioned here in the last slide.
Okay, thank you, thank you, Carlos, for a very interesting presentation and take on the current status. So, what I think we all understand is that the system of, let's say, the tender has disadvantaged geothermal if it's not done correctly, and correctly in the sense of giving geothermal a fair chance as part of its attributes that it provides to the energy system. And I think this is the main aspect. Do you believe, Carlos, that in that context that the way these, let's say, tender systems and auction systems are set up, that there is indeed a development towards understanding and that geothermal needs specific elements thereof?
I can, at least in the Chilean context, I have been involved in this discussion. And last year is the first time the power sector came to a very risky operation mode. We have the last peaking unit online, and everyone was expecting a blackout in the system at any moment, and that was for almost four hours. And after that, the whole industry started to say, "Hey, we came to that point in the system, having the last unit available in the system online, so we cannot transfer this risk anymore to the energy auction." And this is a type of agreement from the industry where they say, okay, we need to address what is behind flexibility, inertia, and have all of this concept right evaluated in the energy auction. From the industry side, we have been highlighting this topic since 2015 after the geothermal roundtable done together with the industry and the universities and the regulator. But they didn't believe us really, and now we see that what we were showing them that will happen in simulations is driving the auctions to a next level, I will say, and we think that if they manage to at least they introduce something new in the current auction that is open. You have to provide at least 20% of the energy you provide in a certain period of the day. In the rest of the hours, you are not delivering energy. So this means solar power plants need to have backup, and wind the same. And this is increasing the price of the for each technology.
Okay, so but let's jump into some of the questions. So, and for the participants that are here, there's a question opportunity in the system. So if you have some questions, add them in there. We'll try to kind of go through most of the or a lot of the questions that are being asked. So briefly here, a question if the provisions of the Paris Agreement and the, let's say, commitment by Chile, have these been communicated to the companies in the renewable energy sector, and how, well, how
Yes.
concretely does it impact?
Yes, no, that also it's very concrete. It has been communicated to the whole industry and to the country. And the first action made by the companies together with the state is they define a program for the shutting down of all coal facilities until 2030. So almost 5 gigawatts of installed capacity are going offline by 2030. Yeah.
Okay, then
I'm sorry, and in the energy auction today is not possible to offer coal as an alternative.
okay.
That was also
Yeah, here a few more questions. The cost of electricity production from geothermal versus to solar and wind, I guess. I mean, the message is basically wind and solar are cheaper. It's just not providing the baseload correctly.
correctly. So in numbers, I have seen some models from developers here in Chile, also numbers we discuss at the geothermal table, and we think that it is possible, at least in Chile, to see a geothermal project alive with a PPA of $65 per megawatt hour, while solar is in the range of 20, wind in 35. But if we add storage to those technologies, then the price goes up to levels of $60, $70 per megawatt hour, depending on the amount of storage hours.
Yeah, that's a clear message, and yeah. Here's a question on wave energy that's probably not quite fitting in the context of what we're talking about. So here a question on the large mines and the off-grid use of the electricity produced by geothermal. Is that a real option? I mean, we've seen this for the Cerro Pabellón project. I mean, it is relatively close to large mining operations. Could that be a standalone opportunity for Chile and maybe other countries in the region?
At least not for Chile, because there is a technical reliability between mining production and the supply of energy. So in the past, we had this experience of having standalone power generator connected with a specific mine, and the experience is not good. And now all of the mines are connected to the main grid. In the case of Argentina, they are looking to have these off-grid systems coupling with gold mines in the north of the country, because there the distance to the grid is huge, and normally they operate with diesel today. So there are some, at least not in Chile, but I know that in Peru and in Bolivia, they are more open to have to analyze this type of standalone solutions.
Okay, next question here. What are the concrete projects that are under development in Chile? I probably assume what is public. What projects are currently under development?
In Chile, there are two companies doing activities in the country. One is Transmark, that I will say is the main player today in the country. They are developing the Adobera project, southern Chile, in a well-known geothermal area that was previously developed by Mighty River Power. They drill a well there, a production well, 7 megawatt well. So they are in that location, very active. And now they are requesting more concessions in the central part of Chile. And then we have energy development, and that project is 100 megawatt project size. They are going to develop it in stages. So far I have here. And then we have Energy Development Corporation. They have a Mariposa project. It's a 120 megawatt project located almost 400 kilometers south of Santiago and around 40 kilometers from the grid. And they are doing today the environmental impact assessment. And very likely they will start drilling full-size wells in the coming summer season. I think those are the big projects, and Cerro Pabellón now is starting the development, or the drilling will start soon, the drilling for adding the fourth unit to the project, and they will get almost 200 megawatts installed capacity. Those are the three main activities.
Okay, so that the extension is okay. That's great to hear. Of course, I mean it's a fantastic site. So great to see that this is being expanded. Here, more quick technical questions. Exploration methods in Chile and in Latin America to explore for new geothermal resources. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, just to mention that in South America we use same methods as in the international market. There is no difference.
No difference. Yeah. Here, a question of the logistics of geothermal. I mean, we've seen this, for example, with the Cerro Pabellón plant or even Laguna Colorada in Bolivia. These are remote locations and in challenging environments, both in elevation but also in distance from let's say the main infrastructure like roads, etc. Yeah. Are these seen as large challenges for geothermal, or something that, you know, if developed, can be overcome?
No, that also this type of development in far away from cities in the altitude is something that is addressed in the mining industry, in the power sector, in at all. But yes, if you are not used to that, you will see that the timing required for the construction is higher, and the production of the persons is less. But if you take into account these main two topics, that you will need more time for doing the same work as at sea level, the rest is similar to other projects. It's more difficult, that's true.
Here another quick question, and great to see some of the people that we know here. The question on the chemistry of the geothermal brines. So here the question is it possible to modify the chemistry of the brines that are extracted from the reservoirs before they're re-injected? Here the question is basically, it said like that might not be possible to use acids, so extracting minerals could be challenging under the current regulation. Is that the case?
In Chile, the answer is yes. We are reviewing the way to make it possible the extraction of lithium, at least. In Argentina, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia, it is possible to extract minerals from geothermal brines.
Okay, then of course here, I mean, and that's I mean, to our friends at CEGA, the Center for Geothermal Excellence at the University of Chile, doing great work on direct use of geothermal. But how far has that come in Chile and throughout the region?
Also, all of the work done until today from CEGA is it's very linked to type of innovation projects and pilot projects. It is still not a mature industry, but the good thing done by CEGA is that they show to the market the robustness of the technology, and that is less costly in the operation in comparison to the way at least space heating is done with other technologies, because the government is pushing the electrification of the heating in housing. And with the higher COP of geothermal heat pumps, you see the impact in the final bill of electricity, and similar for greenhouse and tomato production.
I mean, in the context of tourism development, here's a particular question on southern Chile. Is that a concrete option for some of these areas, for example, for bathing and the likes?
For bathing?
For bathing, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we have a I would say a developed industry of geothermal bathing from north to the south of Chile, and most of the known geothermal areas with surface manifestations are linked with a bathing spa or pool today. Some of them very well developed, like in Iceland. Others just a bath and nothing else.
Okay, now the questions are floating in, so we might just have to kind of go through this quicker and quick check here. So we talked about direct use being considered in Chile, but here is a concrete question about the connection, for example, here in geothermal as baseload for potential green hydrogen production. Here mentioned the Magallans.
Yes, this is a hot topic in the whole region because all of the countries state that they have enough renewable sources for producing and exporting green hydrogen. And linking this to Chile and hydrogen production, we are starting as the Geothermal Council. We are starting to analyze a business model where we wanna analyze a few scenarios to come out with a cost for the hydrogen production. We still don't have that input for the market, and if there is interest from the audience here to get involved into this type of studies together with us, we are happy to hear from you. But that is something we are starting this month in July.
Here a question, and like I said, like now the questions are floating in. So are there currently drilling rigs available to drill, or companies that are active in Chile that would be ready to drill geothermal wells?
Yes, there is one company in Chile located with rigs. We have a very small drilling activity related to gas and oil in Magallanes, southern Chile. And that company and those type of rigs are suitable for geothermal wells, and also we are using Cerro Pabellon for the drilling. I'm not sure what's the situation in Peru and Argentina. In Argentina, they should have, because they have a huge oil and gas industry, and same in Ecuador and Colombia, but not sure of Peru.
Okay, so then here, so here's a practical question, which is actually quite interesting. So the mentioning here that several countries have actually set up public online geothermal databases to encourage investment. Is there some development on that front in South America? Have countries done something in that aspect?
At least I know from Chile, we have a geological survey. It's the National Geological Survey. They have a very nice map with several layers where they show the potential of geothermal energy on all of the areas it has been our study until now. That was studied until now. I can send later on the link when we send the video and the presentation.
Yeah, that'd be great. So here a question on so traditionally geothermal projects currently in Chile are looking or in South America looking at let's say conventional hydrothermal projects. Are there any projects that look at, for example, closed loop plants or similar?
Like pumping storage? Is that the question?
Just like the closed loop cycle systems. So basically drilling like heat exchange systems below the ground. So basically deep heat exchange systems?
No one is doing that, at least here in Chile, and I can say that in Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, similar situation. Also Argentina. No one is doing that at the moment.
I mean, in this context, I mean, what has been quite interesting to see Colombia joining the geothermal sector with even those small scale plants, but do you see something more happening like this in South America?
I know that Ecuador is starting to look into existing oil and gas wells that are not under use, to see if they can connect this to a geothermal plant, but not in Chile, because most of our wells are located very far away from a very small city, and there is no option for the transmission line.
Here's a tricky question, but clearly something that we need to ask ourselves in the industry, and here for South America. What do you see as main social challenges? I mean, here there are a few projects mentioned that have been stopped due to social opposition or to public opposition to projects. And what could the sector do to understand and address those, let's say, that opposition or challenges?
Yes, this is a very important topic that needs to be addressed for if an investor comes to the region. Normally, we have indigenous communities living in the Andes, all around from Colombia to the south, and there we think that at least what we are doing here in Chile, we are educating and bringing to these communities and transfer the knowledge in some way for them, so they can understand what is geothermal energy, what are the risks, and always the main question is, what is the main use of the water? Are we creating this for the supply of water to the mining sector in a certain way, and what are the benefits? So and it's not easy to get with this community in the first contact, but after you manage to open the door and start discussing with them around geothermal energy, explain what can be done, what are the benefits for them, for the power production and so on. This is they really like the technology, because they have the experience of dealing with mining, but years ago they get nothing from the mining sector, and also the mining, at least the mining industry in Chile and Peru, they don't pay taxes, so they know that it's more an extractive industry, and all of the money goes abroad, nothing stay there, and with energy is quite different. So it's not easy, because they start from the base status is understanding geothermal energy as a mining activity. And normally the governments do not help a lot on explaining what is geothermal energy.
I mean, in that context, maybe to mention, I mean, there I don't remember which company it was, but maybe even the company that you used to work for had this fantastic comics on geothermal. Are they still around somewhere?
No, I don't know where those are. There are these PDF files somewhere stored but no one is distributing those type of information to the community.
That's unfortunate. These were really cool. So to really promote kind of, you know, what it can do. But okay, here, like, let's step into maybe a few of those a little bit more like technical questions. I mean, we answered somewhat the challenges with lithium, but I guess in Chile, the main challenge is also having sufficient water for these projects, correct?
Yeah, for instance, Cerro Pabellón is using an air cooling system, so they don't use water in the process. And for the drilling activities, for instance, normally you have to transport the water with trucks to the drill site, at least for the first well. And as soon you have the first well and with production, then you can use the same water and store it in pools, let it cool down and use for other drilling activities. The main challenge is on the first geothermal well. And after that, I think that the binary technology is something that will have a better acceptance from the communities than the normally flash technology.
Okay, here another question. Have soil gas surveys been applied in geothermal exploration in Chile?
Sorry, can you repeat, Alex?
Have soil gas surveys been applied in geothermal exploration in Chile?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Then here a question on Peru. If you know, is there any well, how to phrase that? So is there consideration for a technology-specific PPA auction in Peru that could be tailored towards geothermal, for example?
Yes. Like Peru, Argentina, they have these auctions per technology, and everyone is expecting since the past 5 years that the first geothermal auctions comes online. At least I know that in Argentina, they want the first project they will tender is Copahue. The question is when. It was announced for last year. Now it's announced for this year. But yeah, everyone is waiting.
Well, let's hope that this wait isn't too long.
Yeah.
Okay, I think maybe here one last question. I mean, and we briefly touched upon that earlier, but here's the comment that Chile currently has a standby and dispatch price for quick start thermal power plants. This wouldn't really fit geothermal, or what do you think?
The question is on the price?
No, so you have basically a certain price for standby and dispatch for quick start thermal power plants.
Yeah, exactly.
And how could this fit geothermal, or does it?
Yeah, so in the Chilean regulation, you get so the incomes for a geothermal developer or any technology is the PPA plus we call it the power of sufficiency. And the recognition of sufficiency power for geothermal plants is around 80%, 80-90% of the installed capacity, and you get paid for that power $8 per kilowatt per month. And this is a regulated price that every technology gets on to recognize sufficiency power. And this is an additional income to the PPA. That's true. Okay. If we bring it to megawatt hours, it's around, at a plant factor of 90%, is around $10 per megawatt hour addition to the PPA.
So here a question, and of course that's a good one. So thanks to Jack for this question here. The first plant of Cerro Pabellón. I mean, getting the first project started in Chile probably was quite challenging. So how was the tariff for that plant, and also I guess the expansion that went online last year? How was it set up and made economically attractive? Was this through auction or a PPA, or how was that set up?
Yeah, this is not easy to answer because there is not public information around the PPA. It's a private PPA that was between so the owners of the project are Enel Green Power and the national oil company from Chile, INAP. and they established a subsidiary named Geotérmica del Norte. And Geotérmica del Norte signed a PPA with Enel Chile. So it's a sister company from Enel Green Power. Today, this is only one company. They merged at a certain point. And Enel provided the PPA to Geotérmica del Norte, or Cerro Pavilion. They, in the geothermal table, they gave us the costs, investment costs, operational costs, a lot of information where we did a reverse engineering, and we get that the PPA should be in a place between 100 to 120 US dollar per megawatt hour. That was feasible at the time this PPA was signed, before the energy auction system started in the country. And then the additional 33 megawatts that were added to the plant, that is public information, that Enel participated in the auction with a pool of projects, solar, wind, and geothermal, and with an average price of around 38 US dollar per megawatt hour. So somewhere there between 39 and 45 should be the PPA for the second unit. And the good thing of the second unit was that the wells drilled for the first unit were so good that they didn't need to drill more wells for adding these 33 megawatts. And today, with the 81 megawatts that are online, now they are forced to drill additional wells for the new expansion that is planned for getting up to 100 megawatts. But that is the information we have around this project.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember discussions with Enel and up at that time, and I mean, and the challenges to get to that first PPA were huge.
Yeah.
And of course, a large entity like Enel, you know, even for them it was challenging, but it was possible. So that's great, and of course it made a huge impact, I guess, for Chile and I guess for all South America. So definitely great. But I think with that we should be closing the webinar. I think a lot of great information shared here by Carlos. So thank you very much, Carlos.
No, thank you, Alex.
And we hope that this was informative for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And with that, all there is to say, have a great weekend. And with that, I'm closing the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.